Hello, friends. Welcome back to another session of Virtual Coffee Meet, where we meet successful personalities and we seek inspirational words from them. So today we have with us Captain Rajneesh Sood, better known as Captain R.K. Sood. He's an extra master, and he has been an examiner for mates and masters. He was principal of FOSMA Institute. He has been a faculty with ARI and a well-known person in the teaching fraternity of the Merchant Navy. He is a member of the CMI. He is a founding member of Maritime Trainers Guild. He's a fellow of the Nautical Institute. So many accolades to him. I have myself been a student in the institute when he was the principal at FOSMA. So I have a lot of gratitude and respect for him. And it's my honor today to kind of interview you, sir. Welcome to this virtual coffee meet. And this will go live once we are ready with it. It will be floated on the YouTube for people to learn from your experience. So, sir, tell us more about your younger days, because we know you how you are today. So how was it those days? What was the incident which shaped your life, which brought you to Merchant Navy?
Well, to put it in a lighter way, I'm the black sheep of a family because I come from the family of doctors. My father, my 5 siblings, my wife, my both children, they're all doctors.
Okay.
And I took over, I got into the Merchant Navy profession by chance, which probably we can discuss a little bit later.
Okay.
And my dad being in a government job, in a medical college, central government job, he was a professor in a medical college. His job was transferable. Every 3 years, we were moving from one place to another. Mm-hmm. And with 7 siblings in a house, surviving on a meager government officer's salary, mm-hmm. It was a survival of the fittest. Fortunately, all of us survived in that way. And it was a fighting spirit from the beginning. And Dad pushed us into achieving the best what we could. And here I am in a humble position as a teacher after having sailed for about 23 years.
Wow, wow, that's so nice. So that makes it even more intriguing as to being from an entire family of doctors all around. How did you get attracted to Merchant Navy?
Well, there was an incident where my father, when he was posted in Delhi, working in a hospital, I was in the 7th class. So for one of his evening rounds to the hospital wards, by the way, he was an eye surgeon. Mm-hmm. He took me to the ward, and there I saw a patient on whom someone had thrown acid. Oh. And he had come under my father's care because he had lost both of his eyes, mm-hmm. because of the acid spillover. Mm-hmm. And that was a little scary sight, mm-hmm. for a youngster. And I said, I'm not going to become a doctor. So Dad said, what do you want to become? I said, I want to become a pilot.
Okay.
So as I grew up, I came across some pilots, including a famous one, Commander R.V. Singh, among the first naval pilots, who was my father's friend in Delhi, 1969-70. Mm-hmm. And he was a fighter pilot, one of the first carrier pilots. And he inspired me to go into flying side. Okay. And then over a period of time, after I had done 2 years, mm-hmm. in a Delhi University College, English honors I did, I joined Fleet Air Arms, Naval Aviation, and I did my training with the Indian Air Force and managed to get solos
Okay.
on aircrafts, vintage aircraft, very old aircraft, single propeller aircrafts. And there, first thing I learned was that single propeller aircraft of ships are not so easy to handle because of their corkscrew effect. I had some small skirmishes in landing issues, formation flying issues.
Uh-huh.
Aerobatics were okay. I was good in aerobatics. So then I had an option either to come down to the ground duties or ship duties as an officer, or even quit. At that time, we had an option. So I thought of joining Merchant Navy. Started from a scratch as a cadet on a 6,000-tonner ship hauling coal from Tuticorin to Calcutta.
Okay.
Most difficult period when there were bilges running fore to aft and had to clear the bilges after discharging of coal with those labor from Tuticorin. Poor guys, they would utilize it even for toilet purposes.
Okay.
So it was a tough time.
Uh-huh.
Chief officer was good. First 2 months, we two cadets were made to clean cruise toilets.
Mhm.
Very tough. And I'm thankful to him that if you work hard at a young age, the difficult ships you work on, no ACs, your cabin is located next to the funnel,
Oh my
steam
God.
ship doing 6 to 8 knots, going to Persian Gulf in the heat of summer with a temperature going up to 50, 52 degrees Celsius. You have seen it all.
No sauna required.
No?
The cabin itself becomes a sauna.
Oh, yes. So not quite. So
There you go.
hardship, hard work, loyalty to the company, integrity, honesty, these are the things required in any profession.
Yes, sir. I see that you have a lot of affinity for the defense forces, even what you're wearing today with the flaps on the shoulders. You always enjoy being in that atmosphere, looks like. So that's the connection, as you just mentioned. That's
Yes.
how the love for the profession has always been there.
Yes. Discipline is very important. You will be surprised. I still make my bed every morning. I clean my own bathroom toilet. Most of the household chores, which beside cooking, I can't cook at all. Fixing up of small things in the house, etc. Petty things. I'm not a technician. I love to do.
So any interesting story of the younger days? Like these are the difficult times when person enters a profession and has to face difficulties, which, as you said, is the key to rise. So some interesting story also of those days.
Oh yes, we were about 5, 6 years old. By the way, I was born in Nepal. My dad was a king surgeon then in Nepal. And there was earthquake. And what I remember a little bit faintly is that the earth was shaking a bit. And we were 5 siblings and we started crying. The house was a little bit bigger and probably not that strong concrete built. Walls were shaking a bit. There were no fans or anything at that time in Kathmandu. We started crying. Dad said, "Why are you crying?" I still remember. Beta hua kya? Papa, Hilra, Dharti Hilra. And some other people at home, servants, my dad had few. They also started howling. Buchal, Buchal, Buchal. So Dad said, "Not to worry. What you do is you start jumping like an earthquake. You start hitting the earth with your feet, it will go away. And that's what we did, all of us. So he wanted to remove fear in us. He
Yeah.
wanted us to be bold.
Mhm. Under
That
all.
was one incident I still remember very clearly.
Mhm.
And then as I told you, we had a life of struggle.
Mhm.
And another incident, I think, in the 10th class. We were living in Delhi, and the houses were like army barracks offered to the army, to the civilian people.
Okay.
And a thief came on the roof. It was single story house. Means they are barracks, old
Yeah.
barracks of British times. We
Yes.
were given residences there. Father was in a civilian job. So neighbors also started howling that there is a thief or two up. So what my dad did, he said, go up.
Mhm.
And he gave me his pistol, licensed pistol, Czechoslovakian pistol. He
Mhm.
removed the safety latch. He didn't remove, he told me how to remove the safety latch. He says, if he sees you, he comes towards you, he threatens you, just shoot him.
Mhm.
I was in the 10th class.
Mhm.
I went up, I didn't find him. I didn't find the thief.
Mhm.
So the thing is that, what I feel, what I have done with my children, we should support them, never ever run them down,
Mhm.
make them bold.
Mhm.
Another thing what I found in our country is that children are made scared of exams.
Mhm.
Why?
Many things, not only from the very childhood. If you don't eat, somebody will come and take you away, or there will be a dark room or things like that, which is very wrong.
That behavior is wrong. So now I'm teaching. This is my 27th year into teaching. By the way, I've completed now 50 years in merchant marine alone. First thing I tell students, now I'm training students, second mates, masters, especially second mates, I tell them that whenever a thought comes to your mind that you are going to fail, it is difficult, I said, look at your own history. From kindergarten to 12th, you passed exams? They say, yes, sir. I said, maybe you might have failed once or twice somewhere, but you passed 12th. Then you passed IGNOU exam, then you passed IMU exams. Then how many more exams you have passed? Internal exams in pre-C days you passed.
Mm.
Why should you fail now when you kept passing all the time?
Mhm.
Your mind gets clogged when you have a fear.
Exactly.
Your mind works at 50% of your capacity or less when you go to sit for exam.
Yes.
Don't be ever fearful. Say, I passed so many exams, I'm going to pass this also. But of course, you have to work hard.
Fully agree with you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No, that's very important. So I train every 2 months or 4 months. I train 40 boys of second mate level of a very good company, standard company, Anglo Eastern.
Mhm.
And I do have I don't want to take names, but a very good special affinity for Anglo Eastern.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
was among one of their first masters.
Yeah,
And
I
they only
listened.
had 3 ships.
Yes.
And now, I don't know, maybe 1,000, maybe 800 ships they have.
Yeah.
Another thing, what I tell you, I came out to foreign company for the first time in 1975. Very
Right.
few Indians used to come out
Mhm.
to the foreign companies.
Mhm.
It was a tough life. It was a hard life, but we worked hard.
Mhm.
We were given, naturally, not so new ships, older ships.
Mhm.
And today, our boys are commanding the latest big, massive mammoth ships,
Yeah.
container ships of 20,000 TEU capacity, ultra large bulk carriers of
Yes.
3.5, 400,000 deadweight tons.
Mhm.
So it's something beautiful, wonderful to see
Yeah.
our boys having grown up like that. from those olden days.
Yes, true, true, true. So that shows the respect that Indian seafarers command
Yes.
today. And thanks to the seniors who did all the difficult job of creating that impression, which today is a kind of legacy that we and the younger generation need to carry and work towards it to maintain.
Yes, yes.
Stepped ashore, you started teaching, you did so well in teaching. I think it was close to your heart, a passion always you carried. So that's why you're such a good teacher. Any hurdles you faced during the course of the career, either sailing or ashore, which you would like to share, which becomes a teaching for us?
Well, one of the hurdles was on my first command. It was a small ship, 7,000 deadweight ton ship, on way from Montreal to Dakar, cross Atlantic. And we got into the family of 3 storms. That time, about 3 ships went down. And I didn't take it seriously, I'll admit it. I was like, you can say, mercenary, adventurous, at times in a foolish way. So about 2 days out of Gulf of St. Lawrence of Canada, about 300 miles southeast of Newfoundland, my ship got into a storm. That time was about 1700 hours in the evening.
Okay.
And I was relaxing in my room. Wind force. On that day, we had an anemometer on the bridge. I came up and saw the wind force. It was 110 miles per hour.
Oh my God.
110 miles per hour. And what happened when I was in my room, I heard a solid bang and a very heavy roll. I rushed up to the bridge, and what I see, a derrick number 4, heavy duty derrick. It was a log cum bulk carrier, number 4 derrick, 25 ton say working load capacity, had broken into 2 like a matchstick when a tall wave came and hit it.
Okay.
And half of it went overboard with wires dragging aft. Derrick
from Bombay
and
to London.
Almost half of it dragging in the water. Accommodation was aft, and it was a half derrick. My biggest worry was that any moment those wires could foul our propeller.
Yes.
And we were a goner. What to do? Immediately I hove on, tried to put the ship in a proper heading so that we would get least hit. Least affected by the waves. And I still remember I had a 4th engineer with a lot of guts. So I told him, you go there and handle the winch of number 4 derrick. There were 3 winches. Topping, cargo runner, and the swinging winch. There were 3 different winches with 3 different wires.
Right.
I said, try to get that derrick on board, that broken derrick which was floating in the water.
Okay. Okay.
Others on board, naturally, it's a fear factor. They wore on the life jackets and they were on the bridge, including Barasa. So it can happen with anyone. But this guy went on the winches and he started handling it. He handled it for 2 hours about. Wind force was still same, but ship was not rolling and pitching that much. Meanwhile, we were carrying about 6 trucks on deck. They broke loose from the chains and they started moving fore and aft on the deck. And it had become dark by then. And those orange and yellow lights, red light, they started flashing because of short circuit probably in the batteries or what. And they were moving on deck from forward to aft with the pitching of a ship.
My God.
4 trucks went overboard, tossed overboard. 2 trucks, 1 truck on one side, the other on the one side were hanging on the ship side.
Okay.
With the chains they were lashed onto on deck. Slowly, slowly, their bodies started going, disappearing into the sea. And finally, one truck had gone completely, but set of axles, set of wheels, two wheels with the chain still attached to the axle was sailing with us.
Okay.
Rest everything had gone overboard.
Okay.
And I still tell boys sometimes that be very careful when you are at sea. Don't think that your curve of statical stability, angle of vanishing stability is 50 degrees. Your ship will survive. No way.
Yes.
Do not depend on that. That is for static water conditions.
Yeah.
Always handle your ship in a seamanship, seaman-like good practicing way,
Yes.
and alter course, adjust speed, whatsoever is necessary. Don't take risks.
Absolutely, absolutely. And luckily today we have such improved weather reporting system,
Yes.
weather routing, and all those. Although I also at times feel that too much support from shore is again making the sailors less capable to handle it on their own.
Absolutely.
Including routing and almost all instructions come from shore. And sometimes I see masters, they have very little opportunity to challenge or go against it. As has been discussed in many seminars also, like they have the authority to go against it, but then there are so many questions that would come up if he takes any decision going against any advice coming from the shore. So this has bound the masters a lot. But at the same time, prudent masters, generally ships today are much safer because of the practices and because of the support that we have, better communication systems. Very interesting story, sir. I think it is worth the story because we will not get to hear anything like this today. Neither do we have such. I think all trucks today would go into containers. Containers were not there in those days, were just started, which was not so common. So we will not get to see or imagine such things. There should be a movie on an incident like this. You know, when I went to a ballast tank for the first time with my chief officer, I had the same feeling. There have been so many movies. Nobody has ever made a movie inside a ballast tank. There should be one.
Yes. And another thing, Agyan, we never had fax system. We never had telex systems. We had VHF and we had radio telephony for long range communication. When we would send a message to the company through Portishead radio mainly.
Okay.
And they will receive it after 8 hours or 6 hours, depending upon whether it was after office times or no. And reply will come after, earliest reply we will get would be 16 hours after the transmission of the message through radio telephony by the master. So we had to do everything. Yes. And one of the ships I went, first ship as master on Anglo-Eastern, within the period of 13 months, my ship called at, I still remember, a ship called at 73 ports in 54 countries. And there was no ACTIS, there was no GPS, there was no satellite navigators. We were going with the help of celestial navigation, cross oceanic sailings.
Yes.
Fortunately, that subject still exists. And besides sharpening the mind of officers, because celestial navigation, you have gone through it and all that. Yes. It's not a difficult subject, but you have to think and work out problems.
Yeah, actually, we have seen the transition from the Columbus days to the present days.
Yes.
Nothing but Columbus days. When you are navigating with no aids, it is nothing but what Columbus did, looking at the sky, whether daytime at the sun or at nighttime to the stars. or the moon, and then you find your direction and move. So we have actually seen the transition.
Yeah, I sailed for 13 years from cadet right up to master on cross-oceanic sailings with the help of sun, moon, stars, and planets.
Absolutely.
Decca was there, but it was confined mainly to the land 200 miles off. Lorraine and Omega had not become very user-friendly, not also reliable. So it was wonderful. We navigated ships, what a fighter pilot tells you, that we flew by the seat of the pants.
Mhm.
And we developed the seventh sense, all of us.
Mhm.
We developed the seventh sense of sailing.
Mhm.
And so much of information is available on board by way of sailing directions, that is pilots,
Yeah.
and your tidal streams,
Mhm.
list of lights,
Mhm.
and then you name how much of information is available. So before we reach the port,
Mhm.
a master would be going through all that information.
To create the picture of the port before we reach there.
Oh, there were no guide to port entries. I still remember taking my ship, small ship, to a port called Sino, Sinoe. It is
Okay.
on the it is a Liberian port.
Mhm.
There were no charts also, proper charts for the small port from where we were loading logs. We were to load logs. So I still remember me and second mate, our master, we
Mhm.
made a Mercator chart on board with the
Okay.
help of all the information available in the sailing directions, etc.
Uh-huh.
And we made it to the port.
Right. Okay. Okay.
There was no large scale chart. So it was
Reminds me.
amazing.
Yeah, great. Reminds me, like even when I became a master on my first ship, we went to a port in Lebanon,
Yes.
and I don't exactly remember the name now, but Lebanon, obviously, the west coast is the one available for entry from the sea. And we only had a small scale chart. There was no large scale chart
Large
available
scale.
at all. So we went in very slow in communication with the pilot, although we didn't have to create a chart. But on the basis of that small scale chart, we proceeded. There didn't exist one chart to reach there.
Yes.
And then they kept guiding. And it was more like visual navigation once you're there,
Yes.
with echo sounder telling you the depth, and your eyes and the radars telling you about the structures which are above water. That's it. And we kept moving. The 6 hours stations to come alongside, that was the infrastructure available.
Yeah. And now you have gone through that.
Yes.
You can handle any ship.
Yes.
Now you have everything available. I'm teaching a subject of gyro also now. So
Okay.
damping errors, course latitude, speed errors, all gone. The GPS is feeding the speed into the gyro. Then your ACDIS, you have everything being fed into it through GPS if required. You're perfect. My only worry is that God forbids it doesn't happen. If there is a major conflict tomorrow, major conflict, the first equipment to be made redundant maybe that are satellites through cyber attacks. And then also through ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missile, they can reach that height. I hope that never happens. And if that happens, world shipping trade will come to a stop, including all other trade, because they are so much dependent on GPS. And that day, the way things are going at times, I hope that day never ever comes. And that is the reason in the revision of 2010 STCW Convention, they did not remove the subject of celestial navigation. Only 3 countries out of 150, though there are 186 countries, wanted the celestial navigation subject to be removed. United States, US Merchant Marine and US Navy removed the subject of terrestrial navigation in 2007. My nephew was lieutenant there, and he used to make fun of me. Mamu, you are
Old.
old.
Old-fashioned.
2015, they brought it back into their curriculum. And then he wanted to ask me, Mamu, you teach me. I said, no.
अब आया ऊंट पहाड़ के नीचे.
अब नहीं पढ़ाऊंगा बेटा.
Okay, that's so nice, sir. So, some final advice that you would like to give now that you're so current with all the youngsters, you're still teaching them, so you know exactly what would be the best for seafarers. So this way you can reach out to more people compared to your class.
Yes.
As to what would be your advice?
Gyan, before I talk about this aspect, one thing I forgot to mention.
Please do so.
That ship was almost sinking, where the trucks went overboard. Derrick broke into two pieces, and the fourth engineer managed it beautifully to get the derrick up in 2 hours. And you know who was that fourth engineer?
Oh, please tell us.
J.K. Dhar.
Okay.
He was fourth engineer, I was master, and daring way he got it, his equipment back, and he survived. Then he went on to become the principal of LBS College, director of DMET and all that, and then Chanakya and all that.
Yes.
J.K. Dhar was the one.
So nice to know this.
So we need people like him. Of course, there are many people. They're good people. But one thing I'm a little bit, at times, I get disappointed. Shore job everyone loves. When you have sailed on board the ship, you want to come back ashore. And many of them come back, take up a shore job in teaching, considering that 9 to 5 is the best job. Now, good percentage of them don't put their heart and soul into the profession of teaching. Good percentage. Last 27 years, I'm seeing. So, how to change this thing? I leave it to you all guys. I will not like to comment at this stage of my career or life. But in this country, we have excellent material available. Best of the best we have. Why we are not able to pick the best? And why we are not able to retain the best? And why we are not able to remove those people who do not have their heart into teaching? This dilemma is
right. I may be able to just add a few words on this, sir, because I am also mentoring children now.
Very good.
Adolescents, 15 to 20, I call it, because we all need this learning, but I want to focus on those who are still fertile land, rather than try to make people unlearn and relearn at a later age.
Absolutely.
But the problem, as you're saying, is the problem doesn't lie with the profession or the person. The problem lies in their inner self strength, in their own clarity. And this is not with the teachers, this is with so many people at so many places who are sitting.
Yes, you're right.
We know so many. So that's the reason why, and the solution would be to make them into leaders. When they're leaders,
yes,
leaders who value, who take responsibility. It's one word which can encompass so many things.
So many things, yes.
Teachers must be leaders because they have to create the next generation. That's so important.
Yes.
And teachers, we have these TOTA courses, and the new one, what is it called, AECS or something like that. There should be a leadership component into it.
Yes.
Not only the nuances of teaching as a teacher,
Yes.
but more of why to do and how important the role of the teacher is.
Absolutely.
And anything else you would like to add, sir?
I would like to add that small advice to youngsters: make a career out of shipping, whether sailing on board or making it ashore. So make a career in shipping. Don't come out to ships, or join a shipping company, or join this profession just to earn money and leave it and do some business. Make a career into it. It's a very good profession. And second thing will be loyal to your company where you work, be honest, be hardworking. And when you go back on board, say for a contract, the contracts are 4 to 6 months or maximum 8 months. My days contracts were 15 months. Of course, ships used to stay in port for long that time, but now ships stay much lesser time at port. So if you are not being able to get relieved on time, don't get worked up. You'll get relieved in next port. And when you commit to rejoin back, then join on that or around that day when company calls you. So the more you dilly-dally in joining a ship, or you create issues in signing off from the ship, etc., the more problems you'll have. And second, be always safe, sound. Your family wants you safe, sound, in healthy state of mind. Don't take unnecessary risks. Follow safe practices on board the ship. And that's it.
Perfect, sir. Sounds good. And it's absolutely current with what they need to know and follow. And this should be like kind of written on a mirror for them, that every day they read it.
Yes.
To make it a profession and to be safe. Both of them are very important, so that they have pride in their profession.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure talking to you and to hear these stories, which untold stories.
Thank you so much. I'm not a big man. I'm
Sir.
definitely grounded to earth, and though at times little blunt, but I think I don't have a mean bone.
So we need people who can speak out, because that's another trait of a leader.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
Thank you. God bless you.